The iPhone trap that no one is talking about. Why is the price of the first iPhone so similar to the latest one? As technology gets better, making things should get cheaper and more efficient, right? But we don't see that with phone prices. Why? I will explain the shocking truth about iPhone profits, what Apple hides in plain sight, and why Apple never lowers its prices. iPhone 17 will be released soon with new special features, but let's be honest, you probably aren't excited at all. Why? Because everyone knows that every iPhone is almost same as the last one. They just improve the battery life, screen or camera a bit, and maybe add a new button. That's all. You might think I already knew that, but wait, I'm gonna show you a very important detail that nobody notices. I want to explain that point in this video. First, how come the first iPhone costs nearly the same as the newest phone? Technology is supposed to make production cheaper and faster, yet phone prices never reflect that. The first iPhone's 8GB models was $599 and the iPhone 16 is $799. However, when we adjust for inflation, those prices are much closer than they look. I've made a table that shows the launch prices of every iPhone model, adjusted for 2025 inflation. As you can see, the $599 price of the original iPhone in 27 is like $933 today. The iPhone 16 is $799 price is like $819 today. So prices have stayed in a similar range in real terms. So if the price you pay has stayed about the same, what's the big secret? The real story isn't about what you pay. It's about huge difference between that price and what it costs. Apple, to make the phone, to show you this, I made a special table. It shows the adjusted production cost, the adjusted sales price and the percentage difference between them over the years. The numbers are truly surprising. The data shows that with the very first iPhones, the markup was huge. It was 160% in the first year and jumped over 200% in the years after. This wasn't just a profit, it was an amazing money-making machine. This is the key to understand Apple's success. We were all looking at the new features, but the real clever work was happening in their profit strategy. So how does Apple do this? And how do they keep making so much money even as the new technology costs more? Quality increase and cost. The price of some iPhone parts has gone up as their quality improved. This means a better part couldn't be made for less money. The price of some iPhone parts has gone up as their quality improved. This means a better part couldn't be made for less money. For example, the 4.7-inch IPS LCD screen on the iPhone 7 cost about $43, but the OLED screen on the iPhone X jumped to $110, so better quality and new tech directly raised the cost. It's a similar story with other parts. LTE baseband for the iPhone 11 Pro Max cost about $25, but the 5G modem in the iPhone 12 cost about $90 per part. This one part made the iPhone 12 cost 21% more to produce than the iPhone 11. Most of this increase came from switching to 5G and OLED. Moving from a single camera to a triple camera system also raised the cost. For the iPhone 11 Pro Max, just the camera parts were about $73. But we can't explain everything with just cost increases. That's because some parts got cheaper to make even as their quality got better. For example, the screen in the first OLED iPhone X was $110. As the technology got better, the OLED screen for the iPhone 12 dropped to around $70. The quality stayed high, but the parts cost went down. So did the total cost of the iPhone go down or up? I did some research and made a chart with what I found. You can find the sources in the description below. According to this chart, iPhone costs have actually gone up with quality improvements since 2007. This means new tech hasn't made it cheaper to produce better parts for us, but phone prices have stayed in the same range. By the way, all this data is based on estimates. Apple has never said how much it costs to make an iPhone. So why does Apple keep prices in the same range when costs go up? It's all about protecting that huge profit we talked about earlier. Here are the main parts of their main strategy. A symbol of status. First, Apple sells the iPhone as more than just a phone. It's a status symbol. People see the iPhone as a sign of a certain lifestyle. Because of this, if the price dropped too low, the brand could seem cheap. So Apple keeps the price high because that's a key part of the brand's image. Second, profit strategy. As we saw, protecting their profit is very important. Even if production costs go up, they adjust the price. Over the years, that initial super high markup has settled into a still great 35-40% range. So when parts cost more, the price also goes up just enough. This often matches inflation so far to customer. It feels like the price isn't changing. It's a really smart way to handle money. Third, Apple ecosystem. Apple's main income isn't just from selling iPhones. The iPhone is the key to their ecosystem. The App Store, iCloud, Apple Music, and other services all make Apple money from iPhone users over the long term. That's why they don't raise the iPhone's price too much. Getting users into their system is more valuable than making a bigger profit on one iPhone. Fourth, supply chain and making a lot. Apple has a very strong supply chain. Even if parts cost more, they lessen this increase by producing a huge number of them. For example, the OLED screen on the iPhone X cost $110, but it dropped to $70 in the iPhone 12. This is a great example of their power. At some point, Apple balances rising costs by making things in large volumes. In conclusion, iPhone profits didn't drop over the years. They just changed it from an extremely high level to a high and steady level. A big reason for this is brand loyalty. Since Apple users are used to the ecosystem, they tend to buy another iPhone when they get a new device. For example, when the iPhone X came out in 2017, its price was about 30% higher than older models. It started at approximately $1,000. Even so, it sold more than Apple expected. That year, iPhone revenue grew by 13% compared to the year before. Even during the 2020 pandemic, sales were strong, though the iPhone 12 series was more expensive than the iPhone 11. iPhone revenue grew from $39 billion in 2020 to around $192 billion in 2021. This happens because users are okay with the higher price. They are willing to pay more for Apple's quality and all the benefits of their system. People continue to be drawn to the stability Apple offers, especially in areas like the cameras, screen, security, and software support. How does the cost-to-price ratio of competitor phones compare to iPhone? On iPhones, the cost-to-price ratio is usually lower. This means the difference between the production cost and the sales price is bigger for Apple. For example, the parts and assembly cost for the iPhone 12 was about $431, while the starting price was approximately $800. In this case, the cost made up about 54% of the price. On the other hand, the production cost of Samsung Galaxy S21 was about $508, with the same approximately $800 starting price. Here, the cost is closer to 64% of the price. This means Samsung's profit margin is lower than Apple's. This situation is even clearer with Xiaomi. Xiaomi usually has a good price for good performance strategy. For example, My 10 cost about $400 to make and sold for $570. This is a cost to price ratio over 70%, meaning their profit margin is very low. Huawei is similar. The P40 Pro cost about $450 to make and sold for approximately $900. This ratio is about 50%, a bit closer to Apple. However, Huawei's supply chain problems have put pressure on their profits. Don't forget to subscribe.